I think get going. We can start with Gameli Adika from the University of Cape Town. So thanks, Gameli.
Thank you very much, Josh. So I know not many of us have done a presentation in 10 minutes, so I'm going to move. So this is the title, Hidden Burdens, Socioeconomic Inequality in Childhood Chronic Illness in South Africa. I think this is still important because I don't want to just jump into it. So the theory or the story generally is that socioeconomic status is correlated with an individual's health outcome. So the rich are supposed to be to live longer and to have better life compared to the poor, whereas low socioeconomic status is linked with increased morbidity and mortality. All right, that's generally. So, and this gradient is supposed to hold for both adults and children in many settings. Now, but the challenge, or what's emerging recently, is a puzzle where, for instance, in certain settings, and also in South Africa, you have cases where wealthier children report higher prevalence of chronic conditions. So this raises key questions about whether the pattern that we see in the data actually reflects true morbidity, or it could be differences in diagnostic access. So there's a lot of things that happened before this concentration curves were plotted. So this is akin to the Lorentz curve. So just to explain, we have plotting the prevalence of chronic conditions by socioeconomic status in South Africa for 2012 and 2017. So the curve is below, the concentration curve is below the line of equality. The line of equality suggests is a line that shows that, okay, the distribution of chronic conditions is equal across the population. So once it's below the line of equality, it suggests that it's more concentrated among the rich than the poor. But interestingly, between 2012 and 2017, there is a slight decline in the extent of inequality in terms of the reported distribution of chronic conditions. So there's the picture that we kind of trying to understand what's happening. So the key questions, therefore, are whether or not children who live in richer households are more likely to be diagnosed with chronic conditions or to report the prevalence of chronic conditions, and if so, what drives inequality in the reported prevalence? And then what explains the changes in chronic illness inequality over time? As I showed in the concentration curve, you realize that there was a decline in the level of inequality between 2012 and 2017, and what explains that? So I use data from the National Income Dynamics Study. Most of us are familiar with it. So focusing on wave 3 and wave 5, the purpose was to align it with the implementation of the National Health Insurance, which I will talk about briefly. The National Health Insurance pilot was introduced in 2012. And one of the key interventions of that pilot program was the Integrated School Health Program, which screened more than 5 million school children, and then 500,000 of them were referred for treatment. So the idea is that, of course, the intervention itself was to provide an avenue for vulnerable people to get access to healthcare and screening. So, because our hypothesis is that the disparity in the chronic condition may be driven by the fact that the rich people may have more access to healthcare and are likely diagnosed, and that is what is reflecting in the reported prevalence. All right, so many of us are familiar with the data set. Also, there is information about whether or not the child has chronic conditions. Specific diseases are quite few, so we created a dummy variable equals to 1, whether if the child is reported to have 1 or more chronic conditions and 0 otherwise. Now, the sample includes district identifiers, which enables us to link the National Health Insurance pilot versus non-pilot district in a diff in diff kind of analysis. So the design is that we exploited South Africa's pilots of the National Health Insurance, which was rolled out in 10 districts initially, but KZN decided to fund their own additional districts. So generally, we had 11 districts that piloted the health insurance intervention. So what we did is to explore this geographic variation. So we have 11 districts overall that piloted the intervention, and then the other district did not pilot the intervention. So what we did is basically to compare the reported cases of chronic conditions of children who are residing in piloted districts as against those who are resided in non-piloted districts within the diff in diff design. Because I have 10 minutes, of course I can talk about diff in diff and all of the details going into it. But basically that's what we're trying to do. So you have YIT, whether or not the child is reported to have a chronic condition, is residing in a district that, the pilot was implemented, or 0 if the child resides in the district in which the pilot was not implemented. So, basically with the diff in diff basic calculation, we're looking at, this is the mean estimate of chronic illness in NHIS versus non-NHIS district in 2012 and 2014. So you see, within 2012, the mean prevalence in terms of what was reported in National Health Insurance districts was 2.61. In 2017, it went up to 5.20. The difference is 2.59. Overall, the diff in diff or the gap estimate is, but just by calculation, is 1.57. So about So what's happening in the population? About 4% overall prevalence is the what is reported in the data set. So an increase of 1.57% is quite huge in terms of percentage points. That's about 40% increase. Now, if you do the regression estimate, and based on what we specify, I just use the linear probability model. All right, so if you look at the regression estimate, it's quite similar to when you calculate by hand. Of course, it's not precise because it's just at 10%, but you see, again, at approximately 1.6 percentage points increase in reported prevalence, in NHIS pilot districts relative to the non-pilot districts. If you do a placebo where instead of using the 11 pilot districts, you select, 11 other districts that were originally not assigned to the treatment or not piloted. Of course, the results, just to show that you are not capturing any data squawks, you realize that, of course, you don't see any significant difference in terms of when you do the kind of robustness checks. So in terms of policy, maybe let me just say a summary of the results. So reported illness underestimates the prevalence or need among the poor. All right, so when you conduct a survey, you end up saying that, well, the poor do not have chronic conditions, whereas the issue is not that they don't have chronic conditions. It is that it is there, but it's not, reported. It is, because they don't have access to healthcare. That seems to be what's driving them. So diagnostic equity should be a core universal health, care objective. And outreach and school screening programs can reduce hidden burdens. Like I said, the integrated school health programs did appear to have, promoted the reporting or detection and reporting of chronic conditions among the school children. So childhood chronic illness appears pro-rich, all right, due to diagnostic inequalities. So yes, there we see that the rich are reporting more chronic conditions, not because that's not a true underlying morbidity. It is driven by diagnostic inequality. They have better access to healthcare, and so they report the prevalence of chronic conditions. So inequality declined between 2012 and 2017 due to socioeconomic kind of convergence or giving better access or improved access to healthcare for the underprivileged. So clearly the NHIS phase 1 improved diagnosis and detection by about 40% in pilot areas. So hidden burdens among poor children remains a key policy challenge. Thank you. I think I did 10 minutes.
I wonder if you can get at the mechanism a bit more by, I don't know, something like interacting the treatment variable with the average income in the pilot district to see if exactly it is that there's more of an effect of detection for poorer households and areas.
Okay, all right. So of course there are a lot of background descriptives that I didn't have the opportunity to present, and actually there was a lot of decomposition analysis. One of the interesting stuffs we did or we found was the fact that once you condition these prevalence estimates on access to healthcare, which we proxy by routine health checkup, whether or not the child undergoes routine health checkup, you realize that the prevalence estimate increases across the entire distribution. So there are a lot of stuff that we did that kind of try to do something like that, come up with something.
Steve.
So when I think about NIDS, I think it's kind of small, right? And there's 11 districts out of how many? So I'm
15.
sort of wondering, you know which districts you got. Are we at all worried about this really just being a specific set of districts, right? As opposed to kind of something general in nature, right? So I think diving into, my presumption is you're probably only getting 3 of the pilots, if you're lucky, but it'd be nice to know that. And then which ones are they, and exploring those areas maybe just a little bit more to give the paper a bit more bite, I think would probably help. I know you had 10 minutes, but
Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you.
No question? Yep.
So, very nice paper. It's diff and diff, so people are going to ask about parallel trends, like you said.
Yeah.
And sorry if I missed this, but it seems like one of the upsides of NIDS is you've got 3 waves before treatment, so you can test parallel trends. Or you could do some sort of synthetic difference in difference where you actually match on the pre-trends in order to satisfy them. Is that a direction you're interested in going?
Okay, so I like I said, I also didn't present the parallel trends and stuff like that. And again, even though in terms of the sample, 2012 sample was around 7,000 kids in 2019, but I restricted the diff in diff analysis to a balanced sample to deal with compositional changes, one, and then also, so I did test for parallels, and that's why I also introduced the estimate has controls as well. If those one column without control and the other column with control, depending on if I had presented the parallel trends, what was happening and stuff like that. So, but I think I get the idea of looking at all the waved, earlier trend waves and then trying to compare as well. All right, thank you.
The problem with that is you're looking at childhood chronic conditions, right? So you're not going to have some of these children in the first wave that you have in the second and third wave.
Yes, some of them might have.
Well, they might not have been born yet, right?
Yeah, but we'll discuss more with that.
Thanks so much, Gameli.
All right,
Cool.
thank
All
you.
right, thank you.